Hello YouTube, this is Brian Tubbs coming at you with another video. Today I'm going to be welding up a piece, the second piece that I showed on the last video. I think it was I was tacking up this piece. This is for the top of reaching, but like I said, it could be for any piece. It doesn't have to be for reaching. I can use this, make 3 or 4 of them and stack them up. I can do anything with it, but the focus of the video today is just the straightness of this piece. See if I can set it on here so you guys can see. Because if you look down the piece from top to bottom, and I normally look from this point to the top of this edge, and if they're both lined up fairly evenly on the top portions of them, I know that this piece did not twist when I was welding it. I welded both sides of it, this side, and I welded the entire thing. The only thing I have not welded yet was just putting this cap on, because I do that, I gotta take this cap back off when I put the donut on and put it on top of the bottom portion. Then I put this cap back on. But I'm not concerned about this causing the piece to warp, because the heat is at the top, and it normally doesn't distort anything. So today I just want to show you guys how I was able to weld this up without getting a lot of distortion. Because if I don't weld it properly, this side, this top, will kind of point out that way a little bit, and the bottom will point actually the opposite way, so it have a little twist on it. And so when I put the reaching piece together, or any piece that I'm making, you'll see that little twist on the very top. It'll be twisting left or slightly right. But I was able to get it pretty straight this time, and I'll just kind of show you guys how I did that. I'm gonna move the camera in. I'll be doing a little bit of TIG welding on here, just to show you guys how I was able to keep these things straight. Because sometimes I'll make them and they're slightly twisted. But when I do that, when they're slightly twisted, that I will take and weld the entire seam up here, weld that seam up, flip it over, and weld this top seam and the bottom seam. And it's just putting a lot of heat into the piece, and it'll cause it to kind of move a little bit. But oftentimes I'm in a rush to get them done, and so I'll have to do that. But with these pieces, they're slowed down a little bit, and I'm going to just be putting welds in certain spots and just kind of moving around the piece. So let me move this thing out the way, and I'll get the camera in a little bit closer so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, guys, I'm back. So I'm just using 308 3/32 stainless steel rod. Of course, this is all stainless steel. This is the mirrored finish, and this is the more dull, frosty kind of finish. But when I get done with everything, it all looks the same. So the way I do it is I'll weld down here, this section. I'll weld the upper portion here, that seam up top, and I'll weld the seam below it here. And then I'll move somewhere over in this area, weld up top here, and then I'll weld down here. And I'll just continue that. Then I'll probably come out to the end here and weld this out here, and then come in here. But I want to be, when you're doing this, you just got to be careful after you weld a section. Remember, it's hot, because if I'm welding down here, do this whole section in here, come back, weld this section here, and my next area is to weld up here. and I get distracted by something or someone, and my tendency is to lean on the piece and go here. If I forget that this thing is, you know, 3,000-4,000 degrees hot, lay my arm in here, I'm gonna have probably a permanent arc-shaped tattoo on my arm. So always remember where you welded last, and you can get some, like I have, like with leather gloves, multiple leather gloves, a welding blanket or anything like that to put on top of that, just to protect your arm after if you accidentally put it on that hot spot. So just keep that in mind. So what I'm gonna do first is hit this side, because it's easier. Normally I weld the top portion first, but since it's in this position, I'm not going to do that first. I want to kind of move away from that heat out, so I'll start here and work my way back this way. All right, so I'm going to just go maybe about 6-7 inches and do that side just up here, and then I'll hit the bottom just so you can kind of see how I do it. All right, here we go. I have my flat finger on, just to keep from burning my fingers as I go along here. I'm just following that outer perimeter right in the seam. I'm having to come from a kind of weird angle with my rod because I don't want to be in the way of the camera. Normally I would just come straight in. Dipping about every maybe ½ inch or so. Try and come from a straight in angle. And then putting most of my heat on this flat piece, and just trying to pull the vertical wall over to the flat piece like I normally do. Okay, now that I welded up that area, I'm gonna come down here and weld it there to try and get this heat to kind of even out. So I guess I want to put the same stress on both sides. So hopefully it'll balance itself out. And this vertical wall on this side here sticks up above the horizontal piece, so I'm going to use some of this metal from this vertical wall as the weld. And I really don't need to dip as much because I'm using the metal from that wall. So my heat is pointed at the top horizontal piece. Now I'll probably go about an inch more. I'll just run it right to this tack. There's a tack here, I'll run it to that tack, and then I'll move on. Okay, so what I'll do now is move somewhere in this area here, top, then bottom. Then I'll move this area, and I'll work my way over to this side. Just have to have patience, because normally I would weld this entire thing up out here, and then come back and weld this up in here. But while this is hot, this is cool, so it's gonna start distorting. So I'm gonna just, like I say, I'll run from this tack to this tack, and then from this tack to that tack, just staying somewhere in the same area. And you might say, why don't I weld in here first and then weld out there? But my thinking is I'm gonna have to reach across this area to get to this area. So I don't want to be reaching across all this heat. So I'd rather do it out here first and then come back here and do this side. So that's my thinking. All right, let me see what I can do here. Now all the tacks that I made with the MIG welder, I go right over top of those to make sure they're melted in. Because those MIG welds, I was using my Lincoln 140 welder, because that's the one that I keep the stainless steel rod in, and it's just not, I don't think the weld's penetrated enough to not want to pop if I just weld the bead and just skip over those. So I just stay there and try melting those in. Just gonna stop, reposition myself, and keep going. And when I fire it up, I want my puddle ready to go in less than 3 seconds. I don't want to wait around, because that just means I'm putting too much heat into the metal, and that will cause distortion as well. This clamp is kind of in my way, but I'll work around it. I'll put a tack out here. Alright, so I'll stop there. Then I'll go from like this tack to this tack, I think. I'll try that. I think I'm gonna go in between some of these and put a couple tacks in. Just so it doesn't start pulling away. And like I said before, I'm going to use some of this vertical wall, pull it over to the horizontal top piece. Just use some of this metal from the vertical wall to do some of the welding. And I won't have to dip as much. Probably sticking up about a 1/8 of an inch in some areas and about a 1/16 in some other areas. My welder is set to 90 amps. I think that's enough for what I'm doing. I'm able to get in and get out quickly, which is what I want to do. I don't want to have to sit in a spot. And like I said, when I put my pedal to the floor, I want that pedal formed so I can go. Alright, I'm going one more tack over. Alright, so I got that area done. Now I'll come up to this portion in here, right in this section here, and then down in here. Then I'll move over in this area. Then I'll go back and go in between these areas. I'm not sure if I'll weld the entire thing or just do a little section, stop, keep moving. Because my problem is I get in a rush often. Because, you know, we're trying to do shows and have commissions and all that stuff, and so we're having to rush through stuff. I'm just going to take my time on these. I feel if I take my time now, I won't have to have as many issues when I get ready to put the top and bottom pieces together, you know, for the reaching piece. So I'll just kind of change my mindset and take more time on this end than on the other end. All right, here we go. I think I'll start from here. Feel kind of constricted in here. I'm gonna put a few more tacks in here. That's a pretty good span. All right. And again, I'm trying to put most of my heat on this top flat piece. like I've said before, it is so peaceful, TIG welding. I don't have all the MIG spatter going everywhere. I think I'll run to the next tack and I'll move. Almost there. If I wasn't skipping around like this, I can have this thing done in probably about 30 minutes, somewhere in there, about 30 minutes. But doing it like this is going to take a little longer, of course, because I'm stopping, moving, adjusting everything. But my result will be better by doing it like this. So I guess regardless of what you're welding, if you take your time, you skip around, you will get better results. You get less warpage. But like I say, on certain of my pieces, I welcome warpage. But when I'm trying to fit pieces together, I don't want, much warpage or twisting. Some pieces look better when they're warped or twisted. I think I'll go right to this tack right here. And now my challenge, I gotta weld this section in here, and then I'll come somewhere in here. My challenge is when I do this piece, I always have to remember not to weld this seam up top because this is coming off. So I just gotta keep that in mind as I'm welding up in this area. So I'm going to move this clamp somewhere back in this area here. So hopefully I can weld around this clamp because I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. Put another tack here. Couple tacks in here. I'm going to try this top piece is kind of raised up on this edge here. I'm going to try and squeeze that in a little bit if I can. Get one more tack. All right, I'm gonna go back and maybe go from here down. It must be doing pretty good because I haven't heard anything popping loose. So the heat must be being distributed fairly evenly. Because if you hear your piece popping, breaking tacks, then it means it's most likely twisting, deforming. So when you're doing this, just keep looking at your metal, making sure that there are no tacks broken. If there's a tack broken, re-weld it to get that tack solid again, so your piece won't stretch in that area. All right, I remembered not to weld that cap on. So now I will do in this section. Probably from, I'll go from here to here. All right. All right, guys, I won't bore you with the rest of this, but that's the gist of what I'm doing. I welded this section first, moved here, skipped the area, moved down here. I welded the upper portion, then I immediately welded the lower portion right below that, and just kept doing that all the way down. And if you do this, you will have a better chance of your piece not twisting. And like I said, when I'm rushing, I'll weld this entire top seam up, and then I'll come back and weld the lower seam up. And just about every time I do that, I get a twist. So I decided to go ahead and take my time on this one and just kind of move around a little bit. So what I'll be doing next, you don't need to watch this because, you know, it's the same thing. I'll go and fill probably, I don't know, 3/4 of this area in. Do the same here. Leave a little bit undone, and do the same thing here, just adding little areas in. And after I come over here, this will be cool enough, then I'll go back and close those areas off and do it like that. But like I said, you don't have to sit here and be tortured by me doing that, but I think you have the idea. And when I do that, I'm heating this up, and then the metal wants to try and pull from this side, so I heat this up. So now the metal is, the heat is kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, is kind of balancing out. So I won't get as much warpage. Feels really good here. Really good here on this face. Because normally when you get warpage from the welding, you'll get ripples on this portion down here, and not just a twist, but you'll get ripples through here. So it feels pretty good so far. So I think I'm onto something. Well, all right, guys, that's going to do it for this one, and I hope to see you on the next one. I'm not sure what I'll be doing at that point, but I'll be doing something. I might film grinding this and just showing you guys how to grind stainless fairly quickly. Because if you don't use the right method with the right grinding pads, stainless steel can take you forever to grind. So maybe I'll do a video on that, just depending on how the weather is, if it's not raining or snowing or whatever. But maybe that'll be my next video for you guys. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. And like I said, I hope to see you on the next one. And as usual, peace out.